So many of you guys were asking me about the build that I use for the solo flawless run on master difficulty for the new Theo Parnell manhunt mission. And well, it wasn't ready or it wasn't good enough to show you guys because a lot of the roles were mid. And I tell you, when I put that build together, I knew it would work because they had the survivability. It would get me out of situations like you're seeing right here, where even when it looked like I had no health, I still had enough to survive. And with the master difficulty, most of you guys know by now, having a good balance of damage and survivability will help you get through it a lot easier. And the best thing about this build is on the build itself, I don't have an exotic. I am using an exotic weapon, but the build itself is all gold pieces, which makes it a lot easier for you guys to farm, especially you newer players who are looking for a survivability build that you guys want to try out. Now, the biggest thing with survivability builds is figuring out where you're gonna get that extra damage so you can clear ads fast enough so the enemies don't overwhelm you. And well, that's what this build is for. There's enough damage there for you to take out enemies fast enough and enough to survive that you're able to clear out this manhunt mission and take out the boss solo. But yeah, this is going to be the build that you guys were asking me to show you, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. But if you guys are ready, make sure you drop a like. Let's get into the build right now. So for the weapon, I am running the Chameleon, and in the previous run video that I showed you guys that I beat it in about an hour and 10 minutes, that was my very first time attempting this solo, and I already improved it as I explained earlier at the beginning of this video. But I had this Chameleon and it was only at 10 expertise. Why do I like it? Well, it's sitting at 82,000 damage, 900 RPM, 50 in the magazine. But what's really good about this is I am going to get the expertise right, but it has assault rifle, health damage, damage strikes out of cover. But the talent is why I really like this, especially for tankier builds, because with tankier builds, you don't have as many red cores. But what does adaptive instincts do? Well, look at the middle talent. Hitting 65 body shots grants 90% weapon damage for 45 seconds. 90% weapon damage for 45 seconds, which is absolutely insane. And take a look at this. Hitting 30 headshots grant 20% crit chance and 50% crit damage, meaning that I can have a little bit less crit chance on the build because I'm going to max out at 60% anyway. And if I'm running any type of modifiers, I'll definitely be there, but we'll have additional 50% critical hit damage on the build. Now, if you do hit any leg shots, well, you get that 150% reload speed for 45 seconds. But again, these two is where you get a ton of damage, and we have 1.8 million armor. That's why this weapon works really good, I believe, on higher armor builds. And yes, you can run them all red builds, but this is where it really shines, and that's why I really like it. Now, if we go all the way down, you'll see it comes with 15% crit chance on the scope. We have 20 rounds, 20% accuracy, and 10% stability. So it's very easy to control this weapon. As my secondary, I kind of like going with the mop. The reason why is because if I get in a situation where I need to gain a lot of armor back, the mop already has 10% armor on kill, and then I also have preservation on here. So if I get a headshot with the kill, it'll be a total of 20% because you get 10% just for killing the enemy, and then a 10% for a headshot kill. So it could be a total of 20% extra armor over 5 seconds. So try to get a headshot kill, and this is kind of my go-to. So Chameleon mop, the go-to setup for this piece. So I am running a chill out mask, and this is a Gila piece. Now, it's the only mask that's gonna allow you to run 2 mods, and I have 12% protection from elites on there, and that's going to allow me to get up to 72% protection from elites on this build. And I'll show you where I have it all, and I don't even have to run survivalist specialization. So we are going to be running a 3-piece, so we'll get 5% total armor, 60% health, which I really like this, especially in areas where you take a lot of status effects and you're taking a lot of damage. That extra 60% health, putting me at 561,000 health, gives me enough time to hopefully get in cover, pop an instant med kit, or even literally pop a full med. And that's why I really like this here. Now, we do have 2% armor regen because we are running a 3-piece, so that's where we get that survivability back, right? So we have armor, critical damage, and then 2 protection from elites. For the chest piece, I went with the Fenrir's chest piece. This is going to have assault rifle damage, weapon damage, critical hit chance, and then 12% protection from elites again. And then I am running Intimidate. So while you have bonus armor, you gain 1 stack each second up to a max stack of 9. Each stack increases weapon damage by 4% to enemies within 10 meters. All stacks are lost when you have no bonus armor. So ideally, you have to either run the Memento backpack or Bloodsucker or even Adrenaline Rush. Those 3 talents is what's going to give you that bonus armor so that you can keep intimidated up, and you'll see what talent I have in just a second. For the holster, we're running the improvised holster. This one you can craft, and you can already see I don't even have this min-max. And when I showed you guys that full run, this is how this piece was. I'm trying to optimize this a little bit more. I'm missing a little crit damage here, a little crit chance. So I definitely improve it. The reason why you want to improvise holsters is because it's the only holster that allows you to put another mod slot on there. So that's where I'm getting the extra protection from elites, 12%. And then we have armor rolled up here. So this is definitely a piece I want to improve. For our second piece of improvise, it's going to be the knee pads. This was another piece that this crit damage was more closer to here. I have spent a little bit more leveling it up because I did want to show you guys a somewhat min-max build, but again, this still was missing some, but I think it was at like 8% when I did that video. So again, it wasn't min-max. We have armor, crit chance, crit damage, and protection from elites. The reason you go with the improvised knee pads is because it allows you to run another mod slot, so another 12% protection from elites. For our gloves, this is our second piece of Gila guards. So we have armor, crit chance, and crit damage. And then for the backpack, we have Gila backpack with armor regen, headshot damage. Again, for this, you could either keep the headshot damage, or if you're hitting a lot more body shots, that's where you want to go with critical damage. I don't have a better one that has crit damage and armor regen, or crit chance or crit damage. So I kind of like this because I do have 2% armor regen on this build, plus this, and I'll show you what my armor regen is in a second. Again, 12% protection on elites. You want to have 12% protection for elites on all the pieces. Now, Adrenaline Rush, whenever you are within 10 meters of an enemy, you gain 20% bonus armor. So that means I can have up to 60% bonus armor if I have 3 enemies next to me, which is actually really good with 1.8 million armor. Now, there is a cooldown of 5 seconds. So yeah, that is the build right there. Let me show you the stats real quick. We head over, you'll see we have 40% armor regen, 561,000 max health. Then we go down 72% protection from elites. So that's where we get our survivability, the protection from elites, especially in master difficulty. For the weapon, it shows 60%, but that's because I do have the modifier active right now. But this should be about 42% crit chance, 102% crit damage, 80% headshot damage. We have the 21% health damage, and then the 10% damage targets out of cover. And that is how you have that one set up. So yeah, this is the build here. I do run the firewall shield, and the reason why is because if you look at it, I'm gaining additional 12% bonus damage per enemy, which is absolutely crazy. 3.9 million health, and it is a tier 5 shield because I do have 5 blues. So again, this is actually a really good shield to run, and that means I have to be able to run the firewall specialization. So for the secondary, you guys saw I ran a decoy. Again, you guys can run a reviver hive. You do not need to run a decoy. Decoy is great because you drop it down, the enemies will focus it, and you can do your thing. And last but not least, let's show the modifiers. So we have the all-out modifier active on here. We have Retribution, which again, that's why it's showing me with 60% crit chance, because remember, shooting enemies inside medium range builds a stack of 100. For every stack, you gain 0.5% critical hit damage, losing a stack. So that means you can have up to an additional 50% crit chance. It does cap at 60%, but that means you should always be at the cap. Now, we also have drawback. Effective short range weapon handling is increased for 50% of the headshot damage. I have 80% headshot damage with this weapon, so that means getting 40% extra weapon handling. And then we have liability for deal 30% more damage to armor enemies within short range. Damage received from armored targets is increased by 15%. And this is the build here, guys. Remember when I did the first video, I wasn't min-max. I'm still not min-max. Kind of maxed the rolls. I added some expertise to the Chameleon, and I am actually really enjoying this. So this is the build here. You guys saw the play style, how I was playing. I played the same way when I increased my time, just a little bit faster, but that's it. Hey, thanks again for the support. See you in the next one. Hey, nothing but skills out.